On Sunday, Sudan celebrated in advance the historic agreement signed by both military leaders and the protest in view of handing power over to civilians. But the expected designation of the Sovereign Council to lead the transition period was postponed until this Monday 19th. Experts in sustainable forest management gathered until 19th August in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, committed to hold an annual investment forum for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Experts in sustainable forest management gathered until 19th August in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, committed to hold an annual investment forum for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. They hope to mobilize funds to fight climate change on the continent. Gabon wins 2 gold medals and 1 bronze in judo at the 12th African Games currently taking place in Rabat, Morocco. That's all for our top stories today. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. New scenes of jubilation took place on Sunday in the streets of Khartoum to celebrate the signing of an agreement by the ruling generals and leaders of the protest providing for a transition of 39 months, which is to be conducted by the Sovereign Council composed of 11 members, 6 civilians and 5 military. Expected on Sunday, however, the announcement of the composition of this Sovereign Council had not yet taken place at the end of the evening. According to opposition sources, only 5 of the 11 members have been selected at this time, and the full membership should be known this Monday 19th. The signing ceremony, which took place on Saturday in the capital in the presence of many foreign dignitaries, was the largest event of its kind in years, in contrast to the years of isolation in Sudan. Many countries welcomed the signing of the agreement, considered as the starting point of a new Sudan after 30 years of power of Omar al-Bashir, detained since his dismissal in April by the army under the pressure of massive demonstrations. This agreement meets the demand of the Sudanese people who have tirelessly called for change and a better future, wrote the British Secretary of State for Africa, Andrew Stephenson. On Twitter, U.S. diplomacy leader Mike Pompeo promised that Washington would support the establishment of a government that protects the rights of all Sudanese and leads to free and fair elections. The city of Yokohama will host TICAD 7 from August 28th to 30th. The 7th edition of the Tokyo International Conference on the Development of Africa, an initiative of the Japanese government to develop economic exchanges with the countries of the continent. Tokyo is obviously less present than China and does not have its unlimited means, but its presence is strengthened by public aid and private investment. The latest in Gabon is Food Quality Security Project financed by the people of Japan, coordinated by the United Nations System for Industry. Economic growth in Africa continues to improve, with GDP growth estimated at 3.5% in 2018 and expected to reach 4% in 2019. However, the continent has infrastructure needs that range from $130 billion to $170 billion a year, without which the continent will find it difficult to cope with the high rate of population growth, its urbanization and consumer demand, in addition to its economic development pathways. The public sector, governments, and donor agencies cannot meet these immense needs alone. It is therefore necessary to expand partnerships and collaborations with the private sector, which plays an active role in economic growth. The 7th edition of the International Conference on Africa's Development will be an opportunity to address barriers to investment in key sectors such as infrastructure, energy and trade, security and information and communication technologies, and finding solutions to them as Japan and Africa mark more than 25 years of cooperation. Comprising 16 states in the region, the Southern African Development Community is an organization which aims to promote the economic development of Southern Africa. SADC President in Office John Magufuli, Tanzanian head of state, stepped up to the plate to call on the international community to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe. Since 2002, then under the presidency of Robert Mugabe, this country has been issued important economic sanctions, yet the country has undergone a change at its top management with the arrival of President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who has been running the country since the end of 2017. The current president says that the lifting of sanctions should make it possible to attract Western investors to Zimbabwe after nearly 2 decades of economic isolation. But he also accuses the United States and the European Union to hinder the development of his country. Inflation has reached its highest level in 10 years. The price of bread has been since multiplied by 5. Wages and pensions are falling. These sanctions are far from ending. Last March, the United States extended the economic sanctions to 1 year. The European Union maintains the embargo on arms and on Zimbabwe defense industries. At the international workshop on the preparation of investment projects for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation in Africa, 60 African experts adopted Abidjan resolutions, which also call for the creation and maintaining a network of African experts on REDD+. In addition, they recommend the promotion of mechanisms for exchanges between countries, the involvement of the private sector in REDD+, and the designation of network focal points in the 5 regions of Africa. Reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation is the international mechanism designed under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to provide compensation to governments, communities, companies, or individuals in developing countries for actions taken to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation below the established baseline. The head of division in the Climate Change and Green Growth Department of the African Development Bank hopes to see a swift implementation of the workshop's resolutions, which is a very interesting outcome. For the Ivorian authorities, this workshop will enable African countries to be better equipped to access the resources of the Green Climate Fund in order to bring the voice of Africa before the decision-making bodies of the financing of REDD+ implementation. By defeating Tunisian Nihal Lendolsi, Karen Agono launched the Gabonese successful participation on this sunny Sunday in Rabat at the 2019 African Games, whereas Gabonese judo had not been at such a party for quite long. The last participation by the Gabonese athletes was in 2015 in Congo-Brazzaville. For the first time, Gabon wins 2 gold medals. Right after Karen Agono, it was the turn of Sarah Mazouz, 32 years old, to win gold in the category of over 78 kg. Gabon, with fewer participants in Morocco compared with other countries, made a great performance. Off the podium 3 months ago at the last African Championships, Karen Agono was breathless right after her fight to overthrow the reigning African champion. A nice revenge for the one who trains in France, near Rouen, in Maputo in 2011 and Brazzaville in 2015. Karen Agono also finished on the podium at the African Games. On Sunday, Sudan celebrated in advance the historic agreement signed by both military leaders and the protest in view of handing power over to civilians. But the expected designation of the Sovereign Council to lead the transition period was postponed until this Monday 19th. Experts in sustainable forest management gathered until 19th August in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, committed to hold an annual investment forum for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Experts in sustainable forest management gathered until 19th August in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, committed to hold an annual investment forum for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. They hope to mobilize funds to fight climate change on the continent. Gabon wins 2 gold medals and 1 bronze in judo at the 12th African Games currently taking place in Rabat, Morocco. That's the end of our newscast of the day, but keep watching G24 for further news.